Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're making chili cornbread casserole. Okay, this is a really simple dish. It's good for a weeknight or a weekend. And it's kind of a comfort food on steroids. And there's a lot of different possibilities, substitutions, add-ins, different ways you can make it. But what you need to start with is some chili. Now, you can use any chili. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video to a video that I did several years ago where I made chili. Chili is a really basic, easy to make food. And I've got probably about a quart of chili here, about 4 cups of chili. This is winter time, and I know a lot of you have food put back for winter, and you have emergency food in your pantry or your closet or wherever. This is even one of those recipes that you could use some of that canned chili or bagged chili in. If you're looking for some way to use it and you don't want to just eat it because it's not much of a meal by itself, you can use that in it. Leftover chili, make fresh chili, whatever you want to do. I do recommend though that you get your chili hot before you start this recipe, because we're going to put our cornbread on top of it, and if you add your cornbread on top of cold chili, it's going to end up not cooking fast enough, and it's going to, more of it will absorb into your chili than you want. For my cornbread today, I'm using a cup of white cornmeal, Self-Rising Cornmeal, and it came from my friends at Valentine's Meal in Dandridge. You can use any cornbread in this too, even one of those ready mixes, you know, like the cornbread muffin mixes that just you add water to them, because that's another thing that a lot of us have in our emergency supplies. And you can use any cornbread recipe that you want in this. I'll link a couple other cornbread recipes in the description, so in case you don't have Self-Rising Cornmeal, you'll have some other recipes to go by. But this is like half of what my normal cornbread recipe would be, and it will be about the amount in one of those little packages of cornbread muffin mix. So you would need one of those if you were using those. I have about 2 tablespoons of melted butter here, 1 egg, and I've got a tablespoon of honey. This is totally optional, but it helps it brown and it adds a lot of flavor. And I've got about 3/4 of a cup of milk, and that's all we need for our cornbread. I'm going to get that mixed up, and then we're going to add that on top of our hot chili. Now, you can cook this in your oven, bake it. You can cook it in a Dutch oven. Just put a lid on your pan and cook it. And it'll cook up just fine. Just turn it down really low so your chili doesn't burn in the bottom while your cornbread's cooking. This is a great camping recipe. And we're just going to combine all of our ingredients and mix it up. Nothing really special. Now, if I was just making cornbread, I would actually put that butter in my skillet and put it in the oven and brown it in my skillet, and then add it to my cornbread last. That does 2 things. It greases your skillet so you don't have to grease it with something else. And the browned butter really adds a lot of flavor to your cornbread. And it also kind of starts cooking your cornbread if you add that hot butter to it right before you put it in the oven. Now, all I'm going to do is just add my cornbread mix here on top of my hot chili. And I'm going to bake mine today. Like I said, you can just put a lid on this and cook it on top of the stove on real low heat. You could also, if you wanted to, you could put the cornbread on the bottom of this so that it was like a crust instead of like a top. And then you could top it with cheese and stuff. And you can put stuff in your cornbread. You can add onions, jalapeno peppers, and you can put anything in your chili that you like. Just make the chili however you like it, or use whatever kind of chili that you have. You know, like I said, maybe the cans or the bags. But we're just going to put this in a preheated oven. If you're cooking it in the oven, you want to cook it anywhere between 300 and 400 degrees. It kind of depends on your oven and how fast you need it done. I'm going to cook mine at 375 today, and it'll probably take anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes. You just want to watch it. Make sure your cornbread doesn't burn, but make sure it gets done, and it should be lightly brown. Now, because I'm using white cornmeal, mine's not going to get quite as dark. So let's put this in the oven and let it bake. Well, while our cornbread's baking, we got just a minute to talk. I've gotten some letters from some of y'all. Miss Grace sent a nice letter, and she inquired about cookbooks. A lot of you don't know because we have gotten so many new subscribers lately, and I want to welcome all you new folks. And a lot of you new folks don't even know my name because it's not in our intro anymore. But I'm Becky, and I'm very pleased to meet you, and I'm so glad you joined us in the Hillbilly Kitchen. And to Miss Grace and everybody else who wants to know, I do have a cookbook. It's available on Amazon. I'm working on a second cookbook. My goal is to have it ready by Mother's Day. So thank you, Grace, for your nice note and your inquiry. And I got another letter from Eliza, and she sent this. And this is a copy of a painting that a lady she met had made. And she made this after she had been very, very sick and come very close to passing away. And she shared the story with me, and she said that she just loved the story. This lady called it her masterpiece. And it certainly is a beautiful picture, and I think it represents how she felt after her experience. I got a cute little card from Dorinda, and she also sent a Valentine and a note in it. So this is my second card from her. Thank you, Dorinda. There are so many people right now who are feeling more isolated and alone than ever before because of all this stuff that's going on. And I want to encourage you all to reach out and try to connect with people, even if it has to be online. There are a lot of Facebook groups, and you could even start a new Facebook group. You could start a YouTube page and make videos and just talk to people about your situation, and maybe connect with other people who are in your situation on YouTube through the comments and the community page and stuff. So please reach out, even if it has to be online. If you're able to go to a community center, a senior center, or church, especially church, find a small group in that church where you can connect with people. But if you're not able to do that stuff, reach out online, because there is a whole world that can connect in small communities online. And it's not as good as in person, but it's a whole lot better than being totally alone. And I also got a beautiful heart and some recipes from Ruth. Ruth sent me 2 recipes. And I love this heart and the way that the word Valentine is kind of highlighted in John 3:16. I've actually seen that a couple of places. So thank you, Ruth, for the recipes and the Valentine. And, you know, I talked about how so many people are having such a hard time. And after this year we have had, this really tough year, it's a particularly harsh winter, but God's Word is just filled with promises about, not just about His provision, but about how things change. And if you go to Ecclesiastes 3, that's the best place, the clearest it just doesn't take a whole lot of interpretation. Ecclesiastes 3 starts out, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. And it goes on. And if you read all that, you will find your situation, your particular place in there. And it tells us how things change. Everything changes. And like I said, I know there are a lot of people who are hurting because after this really rough year we have had, it's a particularly harsh winter. But it will end. We're closing in on spring. We're a month away, and with spring, the weather's going to change. The warm temperatures are going to come back. The flowers are going to come back. The grass is going to turn green. The trees are going to turn green, and we're going to be surrounded with new life and new hope. And I want you to hang on to that hope of spring that's coming, and I want you to know that not only is the weather going to change, but this situation that we're in is going to change. It will. It always does, and God promises that it will. And in the meantime, keep praying for one another and keep praying for our nation, especially for our leaders. And check in on your neighbors. Check in on your family. Even if you're not living close, use the phone, use the internet, make those connections. Take care of one another and keep in contact with one another. That right now is the most important thing. Us praying for each other and us checking on each other. So let's focus on that until this season changes and this time ends, because it will. Okay, after about 30 minutes in the oven, you can see that my cornbread is all nice and brown and it's got some little cracks in it. I've got chili bubbling up here. And I've let this sit about 10 minutes after I took it out of the oven, which gives the cornbread time to really firm up and turn into bread. If you don't let it sit a few minutes after you take it out of the oven, before you scoop it out, your cornbread will crumble really bad and it'll just kind of mix in your chili. Now, a lot of the liquid, the juice out of your chili, is going to soak into your cornbread, so what you're going to get is something that's the consistency of a casserole, just like that. It's going to be nice and thick, and your bread is not going to be really soggy. A lot of people think that when you do biscuits or cornbread or something on top of a casserole, it gets that way, but it really doesn't. Of course, it's moist on the bottom because it's soaked up some of the moisture out of your dish underneath, whatever it was. But the top is still nice and crunchy, and you have that layer in between the nice crunchy top and the bottom that has soaked up liquid from what you're cooking underneath it. And it just is so good. Like I said, it's like comfort food plus. Another thing you could use in this, if you're looking for something that is budget friendly or you need a vegetarian version of this, you can use the chili corn soup that we made last year, and I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. It's a really, really inexpensive vegetarian chili, and it would work good in this dish under the cornbread. And you might want a little cheese to go on the side or some sour cream or something. Just anything you like on chili you could add to this. But you don't need anything else. This is a great way to use up your leftover chili. Maybe if you don't have enough to feed everybody, or stretch some of that stuff you've got in your emergency supplies. Thank you so much for joining us in the Hillbilly Kitchen. If you haven't already, please don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave. And until next time, remember to put God first.